Hello, this is Sophie Lawson from sophielawson.com and this is episode 232 of the Sophie Art Podcast, which is a little podcast I do about the art and Tings with me co-host lilDENNiS, and lilDENNiS is with us today, and what we're doing is getting wet. This is a walk and talk. And what I do on these is walk around various locations talking about different topics, and the topic today, I haven't actually got a topic, but I think it's going to be to do with balancing opposites or something. Let's get into this one. So today lilDENNiS is a Soggy Doggy because it's a weird, I love today. What's happened is 1 minute it's sunny and the next minute the heavens open. And the heavens opened and I thought I'm going to record the podcast now. So if you're watching on YouTube, youtube.com/Sophie Lawson, you'll be able to see this one as a video as well. And what I do is I'll put various little clips in as I've been walking along here, but I think for the moment I just want to listen to the sounds of the rain. For me, this is the best thing ever. Being out in the rain when you haven't got to do nothing. Because this is like one of the things I wanted to talk about is if you're going to work and the heavens open, it's like I don't like that because I'm going to get all wet and then I've got to go work with my wet clothes. But if I'm outside in exactly the same weather conditions, but I'm not doing anything, then I love it. So that to me shows how, like the same situation, it's all to do with, what's that word? Your perception, is it? But it very much shows how like the same thing can be different to different people, because you might have two people and one person, they're both in exactly the same situation of getting wet, but one of them is like really fighting it and not enjoying it, and the other one is just sort of let go and he's like loving it. But this is the thing for me, I've been walking for about 2.5 hours now through Plymbridge woods, and what my goal is, I'm actually going to record this podcast here, but also I'm going to try and record next week's as well on the way home. But what I'm going to do is, so Plymbridge woods is about, I think it's 12 miles long or something. Like there's a little path that goes right through the woods, and one end is like connected to civilization, I suppose, and the other end is connected to the Dartmoor, to the moors. So what happens is, what I'm going to do is, well, I've done this before. A few years ago, I walked through the Plymbridge woods in the middle of the night, and it was absolute darkness, and it was quite a scary experience, but it was very much as if you felt as if there was things watching you amongst the trees, but it was pitch black. It was absolutely pitch black, but you could still sort of somehow slightly see like sort of, you can still see stuff somehow. And I remember just thinking, like, I was scared, but at the same time enjoying it. It was like exciting but scary. And at the time I didn't have any. I'd gone up the moors without any of my phones or anything. So it was just me and a little torch. And I thought I want to do a podcast walking home through the woods. So that'll be next week's. If you was watching that as a video, I don't imagine it's going to be very exciting because it's just going to be darkness. But I'll be interested to see what comes up with that one. But the things I've been thinking about while I've been walking along here, I was like watching all the animals, and I found it interesting how you've got loads of different types of animals. Cows, ponies, sheep, various types of birds, and they're actually all living together, like just walking around. And it sort of made me feel like, I sort of thought, you know, it just felt like, it just felt really nice. As if like all the animals were just accepting of each other. Which I like that. I've also been looking at the smells, because the amount of smells you get up here is amazing. There's one moment I walked through this section and it felt as if somebody had opened about 50 packets of polos, and you could just smell mint. It was like lovely, that was. There was another bit where it smelled like poo. You could like smell the cow poo. So it's like and then you got all the visuals of different colours. And I always love how flowers pop within nature, because everything is green. When you get like a little bit of, lilDENNiS is just going to clean the camera lens. When you get a little bit of colour, it's amazing how much that colour pops. So that's another little observation. And also there's something about the way like the weather changes. It's very, I don't know, it just sort of shows you how, you really see how everything's changing, I suppose. There's a little frog as well. I saw a little frog bouncing around. He was cool. I've got soggy shoes as well. So I thought I'd walk up here in my like rubbish trainers, but they've got soaking wet, they have. So I imagine when I get home, I'm going to have proper wrinkly feet. There's nothing better though than when you get home, soaking your feet in like a bowl of water. It's one of the best things, that is. I think I want to talk about like these. See, now the sun's coming out. It's a very strange day, it is. We were supposed to have thunder and lightning. We had a little bit of thunder the other day. But I really hope we get loads of it, because we haven't had a good thunderstorm for ages. Here we go, we're about to enter the tunnel of darkness. So what it is, in Plymbridge Woods there's this tunnel, and it's like pitch black. You have to walk. See, right now I can smell poo, like cow pat. Strangely, I sort of like it. I don't know why that is. I don't find cow pat as upsetting as the smell of humans' poo. Oh, this is going to be cool. I'm going to go into the tunnel and I'm going to be dry. I wonder if you'll be able to hear the rain inside the tunnel. Here we go. All you can hear is my trainers. Yeah, what they did was they put lights in here. There was a time when there wasn't even any little lights in here. It actually used to be proper pitch black in here. And then they installed these little lights. I love the sounds of nature. So I think I'm going to talk about these opposites. I want to talk about this dream I had as well. So, it might be a bit hard to explain this, but I had a really... So what happens is, I'll have a dream, I'll wake up, put it in my dream diary, go back to sleep, and I'll have another dream, put it in my dream diary, and then, but every so often I'll sort of process my dream in my dream diary, or when I do my automatic writing in the morning, I'll process my dreams. So what happened was, I had this dream where it was like I was in a class, and we were basically being taught about the cyclic nature of life. And I got given these two diagrams. One was like, imagine a ring, but the ring is made up of little circles. So you've got like loads of circles, loads of little circles making up a big circle. And then the other one was a load of circles on top of each other. So what I did in my dream diary was I just wrote it down and left it at that. Went back to sleep and I had another dream where I was... So what happens is, I've noticed you can have dreams within dreams, and what will happen is you'll have to have when you wake up from those, you'll have a false awakening. So really what's happening is you're actually loads of different people. So what I'm thinking is, when we go to sleep at night, we're actually becoming our dream self. So if we have a dream about a certain... See, I don't know whether we're creating these dream figures, like our dream self. I don't know if we're creating that, or if it's actually a being that exists and we're actually like going inside of it. Sort of like a spirit possession. But what I'm noticing is, basically, you are the same. It's almost like your consciousness is actually going inside of all of these dream selves, but you're not aware of it. But if you become lucid, you've actually suddenly become aware of what you're doing. So then what happened was, when I was writing in my dream diary, I basically saw imagine like a horizon with a load of circles next to each other on the horizon, going from left to right. And imagine you're in the middle, so there's a circle in the middle, which is you. All the circles to your left are like dream selves. So the circle next to your left, directly next to you on your left, is your first dream self. Now that dream self, if that dream self starts dreaming, it will create another circle next to it on its left. So what happens is, to that dream self, you are the higher self, or the dreamer. But then to that dream self's dream self, your dream self is that dream self's higher self. In other words, what's happening is, it's like, because what happens is, to the right of you, all the circles to your right are basically your higher self. But if you become one of those higher selves, what happens then is, let's say for instance, because what happens is, when you go to like meditation, deep meditations, you can sort of go into your higher self. So what I'm wondering is, like, what if in that moment, what you're sort of doing really is, you're sort of becoming lucid. So what happens then is, your higher, see, it's quite hard to explain this. But what will happen is, if you become the higher self, the you that you are now will become the higher self's dream self. So what it means is, no matter where you are, whether you're dreaming, whether you're awake, or whether you're like the higher self, it's always the same, which is the one that you are at the moment is you, and the one to your left is a dream self, and the one to the right is a higher self, which means it's actually never ending. So it means your higher self has a higher self, and that higher self has a higher self. But then at the same time, you have a dream self, the dream self has a dream self. And what's weird is, I really felt that. I don't know if you've ever had this, where you really, really understand something more than you could ever more than you could ever put into words. It was like that. And I suddenly realised how the two dreams were sort of linked to each other. So the dreams that I had before about these like circular nature things, it was actually sort of the same as this dream self, higher self thing. Because all it is the same thing. So all it is your consciousness is just moving around between these different I don't know what you'd call it, aware. It's just, because I start wondering, so if this is what it is, who is it actually that's doing all of this? Like, it could be that it's a paradox where there is no base level dream self, because in other words, it's actually looping in on itself. So in other words, at some point the dream self becomes, wait a minute, if it loops around, yeah, at some point the dream self will become the higher self to one of the other dream selves. Does that make sense? Basically, instead of seeing it as a horizon, you have to see it as a circle of circles. But the best way to understand it is to see it as a straight line. But really it's not, it's a circle. Which means the ones to your left, at some point they end up actually becoming the ones to your right. So really, everyone is the same thing. And I'm wondering whether like everyone has got their own sort of self-contained set of dream selves. But then I also wonder whether I'm actually limiting it by thinking of it as a circle, because if it was a sphere, all of a sudden you've got potentially dream selves going off in all directions, which then it means it's actually infinite. It's very interesting. Because that's sort of the same sort of thing whereby, that thing where I was talking about, like it's raining, and if you think it being out in the rain is a good thing, then it's a good thing. If you don't want to be out in the rain, then it's a bad thing. But if you could just say being out in the rain is a good thing, even when it's a bad thing, it could be a good thing. Because it's all up to you whether it's a good thing or not. And that's the same sort of thing as these dream selves and higher selves. Is that the dream self is only a dream self if you're the higher self to it. Yeah, but if you were the dream self to that dream self suddenly becomes the higher self. And I can't help but think that everything is like this. But I was also thinking, because I've had a bunch of dreams where I'm sort of like in a classroom or a school, but it feels like you're sort of learning, almost like you're learning truths of the universe or something. So when we're going to sleep, if we're going into the spirit realm, maybe there's like schools in the spirit realm. So again, you're never going to stop learning either. See, there's mushrooms down here. Nice big mushrooms down there. lilDENNiS, hey lilDENNiS, he's just broke one of the mushrooms. Wonder what they taste like. God, lilDENNiS got a right muddy face today. I can't believe he done that. He just broke one of the mushrooms. When I think about this, like that we could potentially be immortal, there's a part of me that doesn't like that, because it means there's no end. Like, that's a bit weird. Just imagine that for a minute, just imagine for a minute you're never actually going to die no matter what you do. Like, you can't actually die. This is another one of those things where you could look at that and think it was the best thing ever, or you could actually think it's horrible. That's weird, isn't it? Imagining not existing anymore. It's not possible. It's not possible to not exist. My squidgy feet. We're getting right to the end of this thing now. Big pile of poo on the floor. Oh yeah, a little robin down there. There's a little tiny robin, he flew around the corner. I wonder if he's still there. No, he's already gone now. So I think that's going to be it for this one. Paradox. That's what it is. We're inside of a paradox. And I think it had to be like that because I start wondering, how am I going to get out of here? I don't know how to get out of here. Yay! It's got a very strange gate in here. I start wondering whether it's impossible to get out of this thing, whatever we're inside of. Because it might be, even when you say, like, when you hear AJ talking about spheres and things, AJ from Divine Truth, he talks about the spirit realm has these like levels of spheres, which are basically dimensions. And what you do is you're moving up the spheres, up through the dimensions. Well, that sounds like this. It sounds exactly the same as lucid dreaming. So what I'm saying is, it might, you might get, like, what if God itself is actually doing the same thing? And God is just like at one of the higher levels of these spheres, but there's another sphere above it. Well, that's there has to be an end. It's very weird. I think I'm going to leave it there for this one. The fly just landed on my head. I feel like I've got something. There's something that wants to come out. Well, I can't think what the words are. Somebody's put some little pebbles down here. That's quite cool, isn't it? 3 little pebbles. Ah, now look. This is brilliant. If you're watching the video, basically somebody's placed 3 little pebbles here, which explains what I was talking about. The one in the middle is you. One to the left is the dream self. The one to the right is the higher self. But if you become the higher self, you would then basically have, basically what happens is, when you're in the middle, but that's the thing, you're always in the middle. Because you've got a dream self and a higher self. If you become the higher self, you still have a dream self and a higher self. It's just that the dream self is now who you used to be. So what I'm saying is, when we die, I think when we die, we're either going to move down or we're going to move up, which is what I think AJ talks about. AJ says you're moving up the spheres. All you're really doing is you're just moving your consciousness up. But I think what you used to be will still exist. Because again, if you then moved up another sphere, all that would happen is the same thing would happen. So it's like that. Just like that. That's what I'm thinking. So, the thing with this is, yeah, there's something about it I don't like. Because it feels like there must be a way to get out of these cycles. Because otherwise you're just going to be moving up the spheres, but you're still doing the same thing. Like, you're just going to spend the rest of existence moving up the spheres, moving up through the dimensions. But I feel like there must be a way to actually get out of the dimensions itself. It's interesting, though. Yeah, and the other thing is this all comes in with time as well, because each of those circles has its own time. This is mad. Put lilDENNiS over here for a minute. lilDENNiS. He's got a muddy little face. He looks quite cool with a muddy face. lilDENNiS. All that's left is this week's inspirational quote. Now actually, what I did was, because I knew it was going to be raining, I wrote the quote down and sort of sellotaped it so that it's waterproof. Oh, this is the other thing I wanted to talk about. Karma and perception. I feel like there's a connection between karma and perception. It's the same thing. In other words, like this is a good thing about drawing. It shows you the same thing about something's only dark if it's next to something light, but if that same tone goes next to something darker, all of a sudden it's light. So it's the same sort of thing where nothing really is what it is. It's only what it is because it's next to something else, which I think is actually what's going on with these dream selves and higher selves. But when they all say about karma, yeah, all that is your perceptions. So I feel like there must be some sort of connection between karma and perceptions. But this week's little inspirational quote, I love this, is by somebody called Padmasambhava. Padmasambhava. And it says, "Nothing exists the way it appears. It is all up to our karma." So that makes you wonder what's basically creating the karma. What if it's to do with like these dream selves? If you have a dream and something happens and you think, let's say you have a dream and there's a bear and you get scared of it. If you then become the higher self, maybe you take with you the experience. Somebody's coming, I'm getting scared now. Maybe you take the experience. Maybe the experience goes with you. I got nervous then. I like that though. This is weird. I'm actually starting to enjoy being scared. I don't know why. Like in the old days I would have hated anxiety like that. But like now I'm actually enjoying it. Even though I don't like it, that's weird, that is. Hey! Even that's the same as this thing, isn't it? In other words, yeah. In that moment there was anxiety. And it's up to me whether I'm scared of it or not. Can you see what's happening here? Like everything is coming back to the same exact thing. Which is that you're basically in control of how you perceive everything. What I'm saying is though, if we are moving along these... God, it's very windy here. If we are moving along these spheres, or moving up and down dimensions, what if the experiences from our dream self is actually going with us into our higher self, and that's what's creating the karma? So really, what it's like is a big, long, interconnected experience thing. There's a box down here. Who gives a crap? Who gives a crap? That's a bit strange, having that in a box. Well, I've made it to the moors. So what I think I might do is I might walk up this little lane, this little road. This is basically what happens is here. The moors is if you've ever seen Postman Pat, this is what the moors is like. It's like you've arrived on the scene, on the set of Postman Pat. Hopefully it's not too windy. The thing about the moors is, if you go walk in a little bit, you can end up at these massive stones. Like, I think they're called tors. You can climb them and everything. Massive, big structures. I'm going to have to go now because it's getting very windy. But I hope you enjoyed that. This week's inspirational quote. lilDENNiS. Nothing exists the way it appears. It is all up to our karma. Padmasambhava.